introduce the speaker of the session, Dr. Chakravartula Kiran. Dr. Chakravartula Kiran has a diverse educational background with a Bachelor of Technology in Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering, 3 Masters of Science degrees in Biomedical Engineering, Microsystems, and Applied Physics, a PhD in Engineering, and a PG Diploma in Innovation and Design Thinking. He is also a convener of the Institute Innovation Council and Cell, the Global Relation Officer, and coordinator of a press and media at VNR VJIT. Dr. Kiran is also the single point of contact for institutions' innovation collaborations with JHub, TI Hyderabad, and T-Hub, and represents the in-house incubator VJ Hub in Telangana Incubators and Enables Network. He is also the founding faculty coordinator for the Entrepreneurship Fest of VNR VJIT. Dr. Kiran has published research papers in reputed international journals and presented his work in international conferences. His paper on polypeptide multi-layer films, published in the reputed journal, which already cited over 100 times, includes a US patent on peptide-based materials filed by his research advisor. He taught in workshops, seminars, FTPs, refresh courses on various topics, including IoT, ethics, lasers, and design thinking. I invite you to the session, sir, and now the session is yours.
Thank you, Ramya ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
For the introduction. I hope I am audible to all the audiences.
Yes, sir, you're clear.
Great. Yeah, I wanted to talk about human values and stress management was what the topic was given, but I thought for professionals that are among the audience, professional ethics and stress management is more relevant. They're slightly different, and I'll address the subtlety also as we go through the presentation today. So this is my contact information, and I'm an associate professor with the Department of Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering at VNR Vijnana Jyoti Institute of Engineering and Technology, among other things. So I would start with the context and the concerns as a prologue for my talk. So at VNR VJIT, I'm not sure if the audience are familiar, but let me reintroduce the topic of what we call the practice of wit and will. Taken from the wit and the will as an idiom, wit and will stands here for why am I teaching what I'm teaching from the teacher's perspective, and why am I learning what I'm learning from the student's perspective. While I respect the fact that they're not students here, learners, we all are as teachers and professionals, right? So I hope that is still relevant. And so I would say, why am I talking what I'm talking, and why am I listening what I'm listening, instead of teaching and learning as such. So anything concerning and involving people and interactions must be systematically ethical. Healthcare, biomedical engineering, computing, data science, and every upcoming or mezzanine technologies, as we call them at VNR VJIT, every mezzanine technology domain, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, design thinking, it could be autonomous vehicles, it could be anything. It has high stakes for people and organizations involved in the process. And in that context, we deal with people in and out, day in, day out, and managing stress is an important aspect in order to conduct ourselves or present ourselves with our best persona. We are not always at our best, right? We are humans at the end of the day. So how do we try to manage the whole thing is what I'll try to present in the way I understand things, not because I'm a master of things, but because I'm a human, I'm learning, and I'm sure we all can learn together from each other. And why am I listening what I'm listening for you, for the presenters, for the audience, is because research that we all conduct in our profession must be beneficial to the society at large. We need to understand and respect the society we live in. And that must be done ethically, fairly, and empathetically. So conducting oneself ethically is paramount in all professions. And stress management is an important human skill and a professional need as such. And in that context, we'll move forward.
Sir, please unmute, sir.
Oops, sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Thank you. Okay, I'll repeat quick. So in human world, all transactions happen with ethics of conduct, ethics of care, and ethics of character. And it also involves emotions, empathy, and economics. And when economics come into picture, there are a lot of stresses, there are a lot of pressure from various aspects. At the end of the day, you can actually see something tangible in terms of money, in terms of wealth, prosperity, that is flowing into our lives or flowing out of our lives. And that adds stress to our lives. So in this context, it is important for us to understand that our personality development and behavior accordingly can actually ease or alleviate the pains and pressures of economically motivated interventions, and we'll see how. So as a background, in understanding the society that we live in today, we live in a society that was an information society earlier, but we are moving towards a knowledge society. How much you have as information doesn't really matter. What you know and what you can do with it is important. And we are moving to a people-centered framework where technology is only a means, but not the ends. And technology is seen as something that must help personal development. And where we have solutions that are oriented towards communities and towards identity. And there we have rights of individuals versus rights of communities that must be balanced in the whole process. And an education focused approach to create responsible treatment of information is also where we are getting, particularly with all the data. As the famous saying goes now, the adage, data is the new oil. So data and information and awareness in respect to data, with respect to data, is really important. And we also live in a society where education, multilingualism, lingualism, and cultural diversity must be considered. And in the world in general, the dynamics are changing. We live in what we call a VUCA world. VUCA standing for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Well, we have the pandemic to add to the stress now, but even without a pandemic, this is the world we lived in. We have been living in for a while. And we also live in a world that is related to social, mobile, analytics, and cloud, where all of our presence is depending on this SMAC, transforming the way people and businesses relating to technology. That's what SMAC is doing to all of us. And then we were in an era of globalization in the early 90s in India, and from there to localization to what we call globalization. So think global, act local. That is the principle that we are in terms of globalization. And so we need to understand the global context on one hand, and also the local act, the solution on the local act on the other. And batch production to just-in-time production and customization is where the world is moving. The world is getting personalized. If I want a phone, if I buy a mobile phone, for example, well, I choose the case that I use with it. That is personal to me. The phone may look same as any other phone, but the case is personal to me. If I don't have an option to personalize my phone case, I may not even buy the phone. So that is how personalized solutions are designed or decide where we are going and what we're doing with our lives also. And I won't stress more here because we are all technologists, but with sensors everywhere in the Internet of Things world, where our lives are actually ruled by sensors. We actually, right now, we are a 7 billion population, 7.6 billion population that lives in a world that has more than 21 billion devices. So we kind of live in the world of sensors today. In that context, sensors and technology rule our world, and we need to have control over that world and on ourselves so that we don't stress out and we use the technology to ease our lives instead of actually stressing us further. So this as a background, we'll see a look into a few definitions, though I call it just ethics. There are a few definitions that I go through as we move through the process. So ethics is seen as a science of conduct or application of values or a moral philosophy, where value is defined as a relative word. It can be positive or negative, but morals are positive, foundational, time-tested, character-building principles of life. So moral is always positive, but interpretation of moral sometimes can lead to having negative values, which can also have negative ethics. So it's important for us to understand what is positive and what is negative, what is the philosophy, the moral philosophy behind an act, and take the positive values and apply them so that our conduct is actually positive. So I'll not go through the definitions here in the interest of time. So, here I would also define what universal human values are. So, Sir Isaiah Berlin said, universal values are values that a great many human beings in the vast majority of places and situations at almost all times do in fact hold in common, whether consciously and explicitly or as expressed in their behavior. So this is what is universal and human about values. And Amartya Sen, our own Nobel Prize winner for economic sciences in 1998, said something could have universal value when all people have reason to believe it has value. So it's not just about the commonality of the value itself, but also a commonality of the belief that there is a value. And such values prevail in the society. And this, again, I won't stress much, but there is what is called Schwartz's theory of basic human values, based on which we have a whole lot of set of values and value theories. All these, this is a comprehensive list of values. In fact, it's so comprehensive and updated dynamically that spirituality was later added as a value to this theory of basic human values. And going back to ethics, the objectives of ethics are to study human behavior and make evaluative assessment about human behavior being moral or immoral. So one is to systematize, two is to defend, and three is to recommend the behavior. That is what objectives of ethics are to be. So we establish what the moral standards are, what the norms of behavior must be, make a judgment of what is right, what is wrong, and then prescribe what is exactly right. And ethics help form opinion or attitude about human conduct in general. And the motivation for ethics, why should one be ethical at all, is reciprocity, positive action for positive action. If I do something good to you, you do something good to me. That is the golden rule of human life. Do not do unto others what you do not want others to do unto you. This is a principle that lies everywhere universally. Even in Mahabharata, in Telugu Mahabharata, there is a padyam that goes, a verse that says, Oruleya Vyonarinchina Naravara Apriyamu Manambunakagu, Orulaku Aviseya Kuniki Parayanamu Paramadharma Pathamulakellan. Whatever we don't like when someone does to you, do not do that to someone else, is what it is. So reciprocity is about positive action with the intention to be good, to do good. Eventually, people may not realize, the world may not realize and change right away, but good comes back to you at some point. And positive action helps you create a positive or good image for oneself. And then bonding. We are, at the end of the day, man is a social animal, we studied, right? Human being is a social animal. So staying together, even when falling back, is what keeps us together as a bonded set of individuals. And branding oneself, like I said, one is a positive image for ourselves, creating that social image that we want. And these should be the motivation for us to be ethical through our lives. At the outset, there are other reasons inherently necessary for us to be ethical, because we live in a society, because we want the society for our lives, every bit of our life, every walk of our lives is actually decided, designed, governed by the society. So we are accountable to the society at some level. And empathy is one of the key, most important human characteristics. The ability to imagine oneself in another's place and understanding what others feel, desire, what they are thinking, what their ideas are, what their actions are, and so on. It's not as easy as it's said. Sympathy, on the other hand, is only about feeling sad that someone else is feeling sad. But empathy is actually being in that place and doing that. So it's like what I keep saying is, it's like saying, if you see someone injured, you'll only say, oh, sorry, you're injured. But if you are injured, the first thing you'll do is probably wash the wound and probably apply some ointment or medicine or a band-aid to it or something. That is the difference between sympathy and empathy. You can still feel sympathetic if you only say, just, oh, sorry, I'm sorry that you're hurt. That is sympathy. But if you are hurt, you don't just say, oh, I'm hurt, sorry. No, that's not what you say. You do something about it. So empathy is that action-oriented sympathy that does something towards people. And then one more important concept is integrity, or in Sanskrit or Telugu, we call it Trikarana Shuddhi, Manasa, Vacha, Karmana. What we do with your mind, with words and actions. So that consistency in actions, values, methods, measures, principles, expectations, outcomes, what we feel, what we talk, what we think, what we do, having a consistency in all that. Remember that integrity is a personal choice. We have to choose to be integral to maintain integrity. And then there is what is called conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is Antahkarana Shuddhi. A recent Telugu movie also talks about it. Antahkarana Shuddhi is a foundation for Trikarana Shuddhi. You can do all this only when you have a foundation, a soul that actually tells you that you must do the right things right from the thought. So the intention to do the right thing, the foundation for an autonomous moral concern that can lead to integrity, that is being conscientious. That is what we need to develop for ourselves. Ask ourselves each time, do I have the intention to do the right thing here? Or am I just saying things for the sake of it, to impress someone, to make an impression for myself? What am I doing? Is it coming literally from out of my soul, organically? That is what is important. And then there is what is called moral autonomy, where through critical reflection, instead of just passive adoption, because the law says something, you're doing it, that would be passive adoption. If you say, okay, this is why I have to follow a particular law, the law actually says this is what is safe, then that is critical reflection. Morals through critical reflection lead to moral autonomy. And autonomy is about that independence in making actions and decisions, where authority is freedom for action specified within the limits of that jurisdiction, the purview. And depending on the situation, moral autonomy and respect for authority can coexist. In our professional lives, that it is very important for us to let them coexist also. So there are various ethical values that must be at workplace, right from civic responsibility, because we live in a society, fairness, honesty, integrity, mutual assistance, personal responsibility, respect for others, self-respect, self-restraint or self-control, tolerance of diversity. All these are self-explanatory, so I won't go into the depth of it. And yeah, and by the way, if you have any questions anywhere, you may raise your hand and we can stop for a discussion. Please feel free to interrupt me anywhere as we go through the talk. I should have told this at the beginning, but anyway. So we'll talk about trust, which is an important human transactional quality that we require for us to function as a society proactively. So trust is a reliance by one person, group, or firm upon voluntarily accepted duty on the part of another person, group, or firm to recognize and protect the rights and interests of all others engaged in a joint endeavor or economic exchange. It differs on various ways, and there could be definitions at individual level, interpersonal level, economic level, and social level. But components of trust fundamentally are integrity, competence, consistency, loyalty, and openness. We'll see that in a bit as in detail. And in the internet environment, particularly in the technology environment, fundamentals of trust, fundamental aspects of trust include cooperation, reciprocity, sharing of information, reliance, confidence through credential exchange when we are sharing information, accountability. All these are expected of trust. When I say I trust you, these are all what I expect in terms of trust. Which means, of course, also that if I'm asking you to trust me, I have to be able to show these, not just have these, but also show these. And Gabarro, in his 1978 seminal paper, writes about the 9 bases for trust in human behavior: integrity, motives, consistency of behavior, openness, discreteness, functional competence, interpersonal competence, business sense, and judgment. And based on that, Butler and Cantrell write conditions of trust inventory. Again, these are all self-explanatory, but a brief sentence as to what each one stands is also something I have included here. So you should be saying, I'll be there when you need. I have the skill to do something. I shall do it every time similarly. I can keep something a secret if you think it should be kept a secret. I shall be fair. I'll treat each other humans fairly. I do what I think and what I feel, what I speak. I would not harm you. I shall be transparent. And if I say it, I do it. I'm ready to listen and accept all that you say. And based on the relation with all these, based on all this, you can have an overall trust on me. This, for those who may be interested, this actually sets a scale, a qualifying scale, which can also be quantified in certain contexts, where you actually give scale to a person's trustability, scale to your system's trustability, even in artificial intelligence. How much can you trust is something that we can actually scale based on this condition, this set of conditions for trust inventory, or CTI. So for trust, multiple definitions may be possible around a central idea of trust, and it is conditional. It's established by actually establishing certain criteria or conditions first. We need to ensure there are certain bases on which trust grows organically. And then there are different components in different spheres, and it's measurable. So with this basis of trust, we'll move to how we should understand profession. Profession is not just any job or occupation. We get confused between occupation and profession. Profession necessarily requires that any job or occupation that requires advanced expertise, skill or knowledge, self-regulation, and concerted service to the public good. That is the most important component of a profession. Concerted service to the public good. When you say concerted, that means we have to do it collectively with professionals and non-professionals within the organization or on the field. So that must be done. And professional, of course, is offered pertaining to a profession, and professionalism is an attitude or a typical set of qualities of a professional. So services related to achieving the public good, in addition to the practices of the knowledge of moral ideals, are what is defined together as professionalism. Being professional requires advanced expertise. That is what we all have with our professional degrees, professional education, the sophisticated skills and the theoretical knowledge for problem analysis in a certain area. If I'm an instrumentation engineer, that means I can solve problems in the area of instrumentation. I have expertise for that. Self-regulation is about independent of self-interest, what I may be selfishly interested in, and towards the best interest of the clients or customers or the end users. Sometimes the organizations and the professional societies can actually help us with codes of ethics, codes of conduct. How do I use that to have a moral autonomy to regulate myself? And public good is not just about doing just because something is required by me for taking salary. It's about working towards the welfare of a society, to keep in mind constantly a better welfare, better safety, and better health of the society. That is what is important for us to operate as a society, for us to behave as a professional. So professional traits include collegiality, being able to work with the certain aspects or the friendliness among colleagues, certain amicability, certain accountability, respect, and so on, and loyalty and trustworthiness, confidentiality, and respect for authority are really required. Also, we need a sense of responsibility a sense of commitment, conscientiousness, self-improvement, preparedness, and of course, leadership and managerial skills of organizational behavior. And all these reflect in the way we appear, in the way we behave, the attitude that we carry, the courtesy, the composure, the respect that we have, conflict resolution skills and strategies we use, all those, and communication, oral and written communication in phone or email, etiquette in the cyber world, and in meetings. In all these, we carry ourselves as professionals, and we are required to show certain traits. All these, as you may notice, are what are required for us to understand what professional ethics are, and also could sometimes be sources of stress. We'll soon move to stress after we understand what we're discussing. So as professionals, we are also required to be managers at some level. As teachers, we manage our students, our project teams. We may be working with collaboration and with peers. How do we manage? How do we make decisions? So moral problems in management include a conflict, but usually a conflict between organizations' economic performance measured by revenues, costs, and profits, and its social performance in terms of obligations to persons both within and outside the organization. In academics, there are also other expectations, particularly of the organization, of the regulatory bodies. So the AICTE has 360-degree feedback, for example, or an API score by UGC. All these also can be stressful in some ways, a conflict. What do I really do? Do I do something just because it gives me some points for my professional career? Or do I do something that is important for my professional career? How do I prioritize? These are various problems that we have to deal with, moral dilemmas that we have to deal with. And as managers, when we are managing people, we also need to understand that our decisions can have extended consequences. It's not transactional. If I'm just doing something today, how it reflects on my student or my peer or my management superiors can probably have extended consequences. As to it may come back to me, come back at me later. What does that mean to me is important. And there could be multiple alternatives. You cannot just see one path and go right ahead. We have to consider various alternatives, see the positives, negatives, and so on, and choose a path. There could sometimes be mixed outcomes. So you're not saying absolutely positive or absolutely negative, but there is a gray area between. So there are positives and negatives in both options, in all these options. Which one do we choose? What positive do we keep? What negative do we have to deal with? Is something that we need to understand. And there could be uncertain consequences. You may not intend, you may not think, you may not even know something is coming at us. But that could be something that we should still be accountable for, answerable for. And there could be personal implications. Whatever I may do today may reflect on me, good or bad. That is a possibility always. And then I won't go into the detail, but there is what is called a manager's decision checklist. How do I make decisions? What are the various alternatives I have? What kind of motivation do I have in solving this? What kind of cooperation? How are the procedures, the operation, the conduct of the organization affected by a certain decision? All these things must be taken care of. And at a philosophical level, even that the universe is large and infinite, and our lives are small, short duration. And while personal improvement and a personal impression is important, do we really have to do something in the scale of things? We are just a little speck of dot, right? The pale blue dot is what the Earth is. And on that pale blue dot live 7.6 billion people. At this time, there were people who were born and died, and we'll be soon gone. In this whole context of space and time, do we really have to consider our selfish motives, our pressures, our personal vendetta, personal feelings, all these into picture when we are making a decision? Is an ultimate philosophical motivation that we need to have as human beings. Again, of course, the golden rule is always there. Would I be happy if someone does that to me? If not, why am I doing it to someone else? And there are principles of ethical decision making that actually can be used to make decisions in the professional or business setting. I won't go into the detail here. And there are also conflict management as an important aspect of our jobs a lot of time, even our lives, family lives. So it is important that we understand efficiency or productivity of a team depends on how well we manage conflicts within the team. We need to be able to ensure win-win situation within the organization, among the employees, or even among the family members, right? So it cannot be commanding with an iron fist. It has to be managing people. We cannot just use authority or abuse authority just because we have it. And we need to also ensure that we are not going soft on people. If we abuse authority, we'll probably make the organization win, but we are losing people and our way to do things with people. And if we actually are hard on people, we'll probably lose the organization. I mean, if we are hard on the organization, we may lose the organization. We are being nice to people, we may have people, but we lose the organization itself. So we need to ensure that we balance all these properly. People, interests, options, various options that we need to consider, various criteria we need to consider must come first. I'm not going into the ethical framework reference here, but each organization usually has certain value system or a framework where we ensure fairness if we stick to it. So the code of conduct, code of ethics of the organization can also sometimes help manage conflicts. So now finally, we move to stress and stress management. I'm not going to give you a great set of gyan or anything. Like as it's told in the beginning, I'm a learner myself. I'll also tell what my context is as we move through. So stress is any physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental unrest. Physical, chemical, or emotional factor that can cause unrest at a physical level or a mental level. And I won't go into details. We all understand stress more than we should, actually, unfortunately. And I would focus more on the change curve. The Kubler-Ross model, or a change curve given in the 1960s, published in 1969, talks about how we deal with change that comes into our lives. As I speak about it, you can probably correlate it with the pandemic situation, where in March 2020, when the pandemic hit us in India, we realized the pandemic. Actually, January 2020 was when the pandemic hit India, that it became more prominent in March. There was a shock, a surprise that this cannot be the case. What even happened? And then we were in denial, right? There is a disbelief. We were hoping that this is not true. There were conspiracy theories that this is not this is just a pharma company thing, whatever, all these conspiracy theories about the mafias, everything, or even that this is just another flu, this will go away soon. All these kind of things that we were telling ourselves so that we feel more at peace. And then there is frustration. Realize that we had to be locked down, we had to be at home. We were angry at what was going on. We were entirely unhappy about it. Slowly, we set into a lower mood, a depression. We lacked energy to do anything. We didn't really like the way things went. And that is the bottommost point. We cannot stay back there. Human beings must bounce back, right? That is what change is about. Until here is what has happened. And from here on can be what we can do, the actionability that can make our lives different. How do we take things into our hand and move forward in such a situation? While I use the pandemic as the example, it can be any situation at work or in your personal lives. This change curve applies everywhere. So from that depression, from that low mood, how do we actually rise? Rise is while understanding what the new situation is, slowly engaging with it. So we had this lockdown, for example, with the pandemic, continuing the pandemic example, the lockdown 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and so on, where we move slowly, trying to see what is good, what is bad as we move forward. The solution was not available. Trust me when I say this, reflect upon the fact that we didn't still know when we went to lockdown 1, 2, 3, We didn't still know if there was a definite medication. We didn't still know if there is going to be a vaccine ever. Vaccine is a prevention. Medication is a cure. We didn't even actually, to be honest, with due respect to the medical fraternity, we didn't even know how to exactly manage the disease. That is the least we can do in case of a pandemic. We didn't even really know what is right, what is wrong. We were still experimenting, but we were experimenting with hope that we can actually eventually get out of it. And as you take that new situation, size it up and accept it, we move towards making decisions. How do we work in that new situation? How do you still find those little positives that you can add and be more positive as you move through? How can you actually get more confidence about decisions that you're making? So wearing the mask, maintaining the distance, sanitizing frequently, we were giving ourselves confidence. Yeah, I can do this. We are glad we are not affected. There are people dying. I'm alive. We are good. We were telling things. All of us lived through the whole process because we could actually go up the curve. Whatever we may think about ourselves, that level of self-confidence, that level of social confidence is very important for us to acknowledge. And finally, with all that, as an integrated whole, if we did that as society, as set of sum of all parts, that is where we can together collectively go up the curve and not fall down again. The moral, the competence is now collective. Civic virtue, we call it in terms of ethics. A lack of it would be called enemy, where the society is no more helpful in terms of keeping us ethical, keeping us sane. But here we are talking about a collective morale and the competence, a collective competence we have, things that we could do together. The positives, going classes, taking our classes online, helping our students learn the ropes, being able to collaborate online, being able to conduct our co-curricular activities such as this one, this FTP online. All these could actually make us more confident as a society, whether we realize that or not. There are, as we move ahead of the change curve, we need to understand that we cannot stay in the valley, that valley of denial, frustration, and depression. We have to come out of it, even though we are unsure. We have to act. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. You may not be sure of the outcome. You don't have control over the outcome. Karmanyeva adhikara. But you still act. The outcome cannot motivate you to be active. That's what it means. The sloka karmanyeva adhikaraste ma palesh kadachana ma karma palahetur bhu mate sangotsva karmani means you cannot motivate yourself based on the action outcome. The outcome is not what your motivation, sole motivation can be. Yeah, there is, of course, light at the end of the tunnel that you want to be seeing in order to keep your optimism and sanity. But that cannot be your sole motivation. Your action, the motivation to be proactive and act should be the motivation. So there are various stress management techniques. There are various things that we need to be able to move through. So the first thing is to identify the sources of stress. What all is causing stress in personal life or professional life? How many do we have control on? How many do we not even have control on? If we don't have a control on, we don't probably have to bother about it. That's what it should be. And what can we avoid? What can we alter in terms of the situation? If we cannot alter anything or if we cannot avoid anything, the next thing we can do is adapt. What do I need to change in myself to be able to adapt to it? And how do I accept the new normal, the change, the stressful source, and continue it? If I accept that there is going to be stress, well, I'll probably be prepared better. While we find fault, I'll give you an example. While we find fault with a student who's always late or always not submitting assignments, we also need to be able to understand that that is their way of actually dealing with stress. They're not stress-free because they're like, okay, I just don't care. Yeah, the teacher will probably scold. It's okay, fine. Not saying that is the right way, The attitude is probably not right, but the acceptance can make them stress-free. That is important. Get moving and connecting to others, making time for ourselves to relax and have leisure time, managing time better, balancing a healthy lifestyle and relieving the stress in the moment are all important. And there are various things that we all do as individuals. Some people go walk, some have physical activity, go to the gym, exercise, meditate, listen to music, sleep. And here in sleep, I also found an interesting suggestion that's I found as I was preparing for this talk. Weighted blanket, a heavy blanket that actually that you use when you sleep, keeps you grounded and keeps you more at rest apparently, and reduces your stress. Try that. I should probably try that too when I'm stressed. And leisure activities, games, TV, books, food, drinks, indulgence of various kinds. Of course, being on the legal side, not going into substance abuse and such. And aromatherapy, smelling right things, as science is being evolving or establishing in terms of aromatherapy, or indulging in some kind of art is also important to manage stress. And then there is design thinking that can actually help. Quickly, design thinking is about trying to use our common sense in the context with all the constraints in there, trying to see what we really want and try to work towards it. So it helps us guide, helps us work within the constraints. And we understand if we put ourselves in the user's place, or if we put our subordinates trying to reduce their stress, we try to understand their problems and solve their problems. Or it could be us. We understand problems, looking at ourselves externally and trying to solve the problems for ourselves. And then effective outcome, how do we do it? And understanding things from an alternate standpoint, retracing our steps, trying to see if we can retrospect, probably change a few things, adapt, and come back. All these things. And research approaches, of course. There are various ways we can actually use design thinking to help us design our lives better. And then there is this famous Eisenhower matrix. The copyright is also mentioned right there, where we identify what is urgent and important, and the whole matrix, right? Urgent and important, urgent and not urgent but important, not urgent, not important. You focus on the tasks that are urgent and important. You do what is not urgent but important. You schedule them properly, prioritize your time accordingly. You try to delegate tasks that are urgent but not important for you to do them. So give them to someone else who can do it anyway. And there are these tasks that are not urgent, not important, which you try to avoid or reduce as you move through. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People also talks about this matrix called urgent versus important. Ideally, you should be doing things which are urgent and important, or at least important and not urgent. So 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. And then there is what is called an action matrix that I found from Imperial College of London, as you can see the reference there, where you see what the impact is and what the effort is. Of course, low impact and high effort is where you should, high impact and high effect is where you have to have all your major projects in, and the quick wins or high impact and low effort is what can motivate you faster. And then there is low impact, low effort, where you're just doing something, but you should be able to avoid that as soon as you can. If you cannot answer that question, why am I even doing this? You probably can try to avoid that. And then there are these thankless tasks, which actually are stressful. High effort is required, but there is low impact. No one even notices when you do it. But then there are all these fingers pointing at us when we don't do it. So those can be stressful. How can you avoid them is what is important. As we put effort, how much impact does it have in terms of our today and tomorrow is what we have to analyze for ourselves in that way. And then there is this Kanban diagram of work. Most people, engineers, industrial engineers, mechanical engineers would know it. It could be used for resource allocation or task prioritization. Very quickly put, there are these backlog, in progress, built and validated 4 buckets, or things that you have to be doing, things that you are doing, things that you have done, things that you done and dusted, you push them away. The idea of Kanban, or which literally means visual board, is you cannot have more than 3 tasks at a time. Usually, that is what it is. So as I move through very quickly, I'll conclude because we are running out of time. So visualizing work, limiting work in process, focusing on flow and continuous improvement is what is needed. There is also Ikigai that I would talk about later as we, and you could probably look it up. I'll type it in the chat box. Ikigai is really what is needed for us to keep ourselves at peace. And then I believe this talk would be incomplete if I don't give the Indian perspective here. So there are certain traditional values and constitutional values that actually bring us into something meaningful as life. We have to be able to adopt these values because they come to us inherently and because of the social life we have. Spirituality is a part of our human lives. The karma principle says what goes around comes around. If it's not coming around now, it will probably come around in next life. That as a motivation not to believe in rebirth. And Bhagavad Gita says freedom in action, not freedom from action. I cannot simply say I don't want to do it so that I can feel free. I have to say that I can do this in whatever way I can. This is the outcome that is needed and I do it like I want. And the deed is more important than the doer. And the family system also helps us in that. Presencing, I won't go into the detail here, but it's about bringing into the present the best future possibilities. That is what karma principle is. Dr. Klaus Otto Schaumann actually quotes karma and Mahatma Gandhi when he talks about presencing at MIT. What do I need? I mean, what comes around is what should be the best. So what do I do today to keep it the best? And then exclusivity is the cause of confusion. There are no two entities. We need to remember that the karma and the karta are the same. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. And only when the karma and karta come together is there kriyasiti. That's what it is. So that kriyasiti or that best outcome for our action comes only when we own up the task as much as we own up ourselves. And presencing is a natural extension. So concluding in 2 minutes, ethics can help us understand our lives better and the society better. I would only focus on the last 2 here in the interest of time. Swami Vivekananda says ethics is the degree of faith in oneself. A lot of times we behave unethically because we think there is a shortcut. We think no one sees us. But ask oneself, do I have to take this shortcut? Do I have to do something unfair, something unethical? Can't I do something ethical and still get the outcome? Am I not capable? That is the degree of faith. We commit to something, doing something wrong or bad only when we are unsure of the outcome and only when we are not confident about ourselves. And Eliezer Rudkowski, who developed friendly artificial intelligence or friendly AI, said, you're personally responsible for becoming more ethical than the society you grew up in. This should be the motivation for us to go forward. So as we do conduct ourselves, we need to accept mistakes as is. We need to be able to appreciate people and ourselves and adjust lives of ourselves and others. Okay, these people are just this, accept, adjust. And when we make mistakes, we need to understand that we should not justify. We should not excuse oneself, but we can excuse ourselves, but not the act. And one should not hate oneself in the process. So important concepts are conscientiousness, integrity, empathy, trust, and ethics. And also, Paul says where the danger is, but where the danger is, there grows also what saves. There is also this famous Telugu song, right? అపజయాలు కలిగిన చోటే గెలుపు పిలుపు వినిపిస్తుంది ఆకులన్నీ రాలిన చోటే కొత్త చిగురు కనిపిస్తుంది. Where there is trouble, where there is stress, source of stress, if you identify it right, that can also help you accept it and adapt yourself and move forward, rise from there towards the best outcome. And I would conclude with what works for me. It was kind of intentional to give an extensive introduction of what I do. I have several titles, I do several things. I am also a writer, a lyricist, and I am able to manage these even with all the faults, is because of this. I trust my fellow beings. I believe in sharing. I believe in using reciprocation by being good, by being positive. And I keep hopes alive. That is the mantra for my life, keeping hopes alive for students, for people around me, whatever. Having that optimism about life, living in the moment, being here and now, staying self-confident that I can do something, sense of ownership and sense of belongingness. A little confession here. I kind of, because of other things that were happening with me yesterday and this morning, I kind of it slipped out of my mind that I have this talk today at 2 p.m. I had to make these slides in haste. But then here I am after 58 slides. And that could be done because I was self-confident, because I knew I can do it. I have given several talks about ethics, about stress management, about professional ethics. I can do it. It's something I told myself, not with that arrogance, but with that humility that I say in every class. If I can, anyone can. If anyone can, I can. We are all made similar as human beings with all our faults and also with all our positives. Can we actually leverage the positives and reduce the negatives? That is what it is. And then we can do further. With that, I conclude. I'm really sorry that I overshot or I even started a little late. And I'm apologetic to the next speaker, Mr. Lenin Kondragunta, who will be talking about yoga and meditation to help relieve our stress further. And thank you for the patient audience. And thanks for the coordinators and those who introduced me, Ms. Ramya and Dr. Talpat Rao, and the Department of Electronics and Communications Engineering, and the IEEE Society chapter that is organizing this FDP. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Do we have time for a couple of questions, sir?
Yes, sir. Participants can please go ahead and ask questions. And we really thank you, sir, for serving as a speaker for the FDP.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was very imperative to gain the participants.
I hope my 1 hour session was not stressful.
No,
Stress management.
No, sir, it's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
What is the impact of satisfaction in life? There's a question in the chat box.
Yeah, Janakumar sir, thank you. What is the impact of satisfaction in life? That can be a great motivation for us to move forward. But there is a little term that I would introduce, a noun, actually, not even spelling it wrong. There is what is called satisfies. Alpasantosham antam Telugulo. The minimum level of satisfaction. That is definitely needed. But what needs to be done in terms of utilitarian theory is maximizing that satisfaction for us and for a greater good. That's what can be a great motivator to reduce stress also. How to overcome stress subconsciously when we feel it. Aruna ma'am, I would say I'm also learning here. And what I do is, like I said, living in the moment and telling myself that it is okay. It is okay that I am a human and there can be mistakes from my side. And I can still get through this. And I can actually still pull my people through this is what keeps us. That sense of belongingness and the sense of ownership that my action has repercussions and that I'm still accountable for it. If I can actually tell myself that with a positive thing, that I can do it, I have done it, I have lived so much of life, I'm sure there are people who respect me for what I am. If we can accept that about us with that humility, we can sure help, and that can be a great stress buster in itself, in my opinion, in my experience. And thanks for the questions. All questions help us learn better also. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And if that is all, I thank the coordinators again for organizing this and for actually including a talk on professional ethics and stress management. as a part of the faculty development program. I hope the participants could learn a bit and learn a thing or two that they can probably explore later and adopt for oneself. Again, if I can, anyone can. If anyone can, I can. We all can. With that, I conclude.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Lenin sir, good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Kiran sir, for inviting to the yoga session. So welcome to the today's yoga session. So we have less time to do yoga practices. So we'll do the basic yoga practices to come out from these stress levels to activate the brain nerve system with the pranayama practices. Okay, let us start with the prayer. Keep both hands in Namaskar Mudra. Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So first we'll start with pranayama practices in the part of yoga session. Pranayama means controlling the prana and supplying that pranic energy to each and every cell in the body. So it will help to strengthen the lungs and improves the immunity power. Okay, now keep your left hand in Gnana Mudra like this, keep up on the thigh and close your right nostril with the right thumb. Close your right nostril with the right thumb. Now take long and deep breath from the left nostril slowly and deeply. Inhale deeply. And exhale completely through the left nostril only. Continue 6 times. Inhale deeply. And exhale completely. Continue. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. 3 more times from the left nostril only. Inhale. Fill your lungs with the deep breathing, then empty your lungs completely. 2 more. Deep inhale. So this will supply good oxygen to the lungs, liver, brain, the main organs in the body. Exhale completely. 1 more time, 6th round. Take long and deep breath. Then exhale completely. Right, drop down your hand and relax. Drop down your right hand and relax. And the next practice with the right nostril. Close your left nostril with the right hand ring finger. See how I am closing the left nostril. Use your ring finger to close the left nostril. but keep your entire focus on the inhalation and the exhalation only. Take long and deep breath from the right nostril. Observe how I am doing. And exhale completely after inhalation. It should be long and deep. The breath should be long and deep, slow and deep. Then after deep inhalation, complete exhale. Inhale deeply. Then exhale completely. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more rounds. Take long and deep breath. You have to fill your lungs with deep breathing. And exhale completely. The last round. Inhale deeply. And exhale completely. Just relax. Drop down your right hand and relax. Now these pranayama techniques releases from the stress, anxiety, and the fear, the negative thoughts, and improves memory and concentration power. Now next pranayama is very, very important pranayama. So first observe how I am doing this pranayama. First exhale from the left nostril completely. This is alternate nostril breathing. First exhale from the left nostril completely, like this. After exhalation, inhale deeply. From left nostril only. After deep inhalation, close your left nostril with the ring finger. Then exhale through the right nostril completely. See how I am practicing. Exhale through the right nostril. Again, deep inhale from the right nostril only. After deep inhalation, close your right nostril and exhale through the left nostril completely. This will balances both the hemispheres of the brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. Then continue breathing from left nostril to right and right nostril to left. Inhale deeply. Then after deep inhalation, close your left nostril and exhale through right nostril. Again, deep inhalation from the right nostril. Close right nostril and exhale through left nostril completely. So this has to happen consciously, conscious inhalation and the conscious exhalation. So this will increase the human awareness. Inhale deeply and exhale completely through opposite nostril. And those who are suffering with the migraine, so for those people, this will help to come out from the migraine. And those who are suffering with lack of concentration, this practice will help to increase the concentration and memory also, and it gives the emotional balance to the brain. Inhale deeply from the left and exhale completely through the opposite nostril. So after six rounds, then gently stop the Anuloma Viloma Pranayama. This is called Anuloma Viloma Pranayama. To balance both the hemispheres of the brain, just relax after 6 rounds of Anuloma Viloma. So basically pranayama supplies pranic energy to each and every cell in the body and mainly strengthens our lungs and releases toxins from the body. The next pranayama is Kapalabhati pranayama, we call in yoga. This means releasing toxins from the body very deeply. Like this, you have to exhale continuously, no need to inhale wantedly. You have to exhale, forceful exhalation like this. Just observe. Like this, forceful exhalation. Forceful exhalation. Inhalation happens on its own way. No need to focus on your inhalation. Just focus on your exhalation. This will help to strengthen your abdomen muscles. Breathe out. Releases toxins which are accumulated in the body, the bad toxins. Give strength to your heart. In between, you can take long and deep breath. Take deep breath if you want. If you feel any discomfort, take long and deep breath. Exhale completely. We'll do one more round, same way. We'll do one more round. So continue, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Again, breathe in deeply from both the nostrils and exhale completely. Then maintain normal breathing after Kapalabhati pranayama. Maintain normal breathing. Then Bhramari pranayama, the last one is Bhramari, which strengthens your brain cells, which activates your brain cells and helps to increase the memory power. And therapeutic benefits are who are suffering with the ear problems, and the negative thoughts will reduce with the Bhramari pranayama. You need to do close with both the thumbs. Your ears should be closed with the thumbs and close your eyes and produce the sound makara, like a honeybee sound. Make honeybee sound gentle. Just observe like this. Then take long and deep breath. Two more. One more. and release your hands. Just rub your hands. Rub your hands. Gently massage your facial muscles. Gently massage your facial muscles. And keep your hands in again in yoga mudra like this. And the last 2 minutes meditation. So close your eyes gently. Then follow the Omkara music. Omkara chanting. Close your eyes. Just observe your normal breathing. Relax. Relax your mind. Relax your entire body. Relax. Eyes should be closed. Relax your entire body from the top of the head to the tip of the toes. Close the session with Shanti Mantra. Keep both hands in Namaskar Mudra. Keep both hands in Namaskar Mudra. Asadoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoruma Amrutangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So once again, rub your hands and gently massage your facial muscles. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So thank you. Okay, sir.
Sir, just a minute. Thank you, sir. I think for the participants, this is the relaxation session.
Actually, I got very time to give my I got very less time. Again, thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
But within this less time only, I think they got a very relaxation mode.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you very much.